Our journey into the study of tourism began with a brief look back in history. History provides many important lessons that help explain and grow the significance of travel in world economies. Through history, we can learn how past societies, systems, ideologies, governments, cultures, and technologies were built, but how they are operated and how they have changed. According to United Nations World Tourism Organization, tourism is a social, cultural, and economic phenomenon that entails the movement of people to countries or places outside their usual environment for personal or business professional purposes. Hi, my name is RASHEIL Orcullo Omapas, and I welcome you in THTY 101 Macro Perspective of Hospitality and Tourism. To travel and tourism through the ages. Early tourism. Romans and Greeks are well-known traders in the past. They traveled only for business and religious purposes. And as their empire grew, and when the Sumerians invented the money, the cuneiform writing, and the wheels, the trading industry flourished. Travel became necessary. Merchants traveled extensively to trade products, and there are improvements in ease, communications, and first-class roads. Example for this is the Appian Way in Rome. During this century, leisure travel existed already, but it was not yet widespread. It was limited only to a few people and affluent families, like Greeks, who traveled to witness the Olympic Games, and Romans, who traveled for pleasure and to visit friends and relatives. The cities of Rome and Jerusalem were the famous sites for pilgrims in the past. Pilgrimages were taken to fulfill a vow, as in case of illness or great danger, or as retribution for sins. A great example for this is the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in Galicia, Spain. Medieval period, or the Dark Ages era. The fall of Roman Empire in 5th century brought a decline in travel. Travel became difficult, dangerous, and demanding. Roads were not maintained, and it became unsafe for travelers. Thieves inflicted and harm on those who attempted to travel. Tourism in the Renaissance and Elizabethan era. In this period, few renowned universities were developed. During the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, young aristocrat men who were aiming for a position in court were encouraged to travel with the continent to increase their knowledge. The education of a gentleman should be completed with a grand tour. Grand tour. The tour includes visiting different cultural centers on the continent for 3 years. Aside from educational travel, people also traveled for health and wellness. Sick people traveled in sought for a remedy for their illness and medical baths or spa. A great example of this is the Great Bath in Bath, England. Industrial Revolution. If 2021 is an Industry 5.0, we're prone to mass customization. In this era, it is prone to mass production. The increase in productivity, job regularization, and growing urbanization gave workers time and more motivation to go on holiday. 19th century. This advancement in technology made travel more convenient and comfortable. The new ways of transport increased its carrying capacity and reduced travel costs. The Baedeker guidebooks were the most popular because it does not only contain basic information, but it also includes details on how to visit the destination and suggested tourist attractions that are worth visiting. Cooks and Kings were the first known travel agency And in 1841, Thomas Cook, the father of modern tourism, opened the first leisure travel agency, the Thomas Cook and Sons. His first excursion trip occurred in 1841 between Leicester and Loughborough in Europe, with 571 passengers provided with meals and entertained with brass music. In 1866, he introduced the circular notes, which were accepted in the banks, hotels, restaurants, and shops. 20th century. The development of the travel and tourism industry had been interrupted at several critical points during the time because of World War I and World War II. During the World War I, tourism became stagnant. New forms of mass communications have increased people's curiosity, such as cinema, radio, and television. There was also a decline in railway travel caused by the introduction of the automobile. World War II led to an increase in travel interest influenced by the advancement in aircraft technology. In 1958, jets was introduced, and the air travel for masses began, which brought a decline of sea travel. After World War II, there was also an increase in private car ownership, which affected the coach and rail services. The economies recovered after the war, providing an increase in discretionary income and leisure time. Third, business and trade flourished in developed countries, which led to the demand for conferences and incentive travel on a global scale. Europe and the developing tourist-based economies of Asia, such as Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. 21st century, or the Internet of Things. However, at the start of the century, global events like September 11, 2001, World Trade Center, New York City bombing, in the war in Iraq, terrorist attacks, and health scares hit a decline in international travel. And in 2014, global leather Expedia expanded to include brands such as Hotels.com, Trivago, Hatware Group, and Expedia Cruise Ship Center. The origins of tourism in the Philippines. Spanish occupation. They colonized Philippines. During the Spanish occupation, travels were limited only to education, employment, and religious pilgrimage. Only a few people can travel to a foreign country because it was expensive and time-consuming. For example, traveling to Spain could take 1 year via Manila-Acapulco galleon trade route. In the later part of 19th century, Spaniards introduced innovations such as railroads, electricity, and telegraph. Hotel de Oriente, the city's first deluxe hotel, was opened. American occupation. During the celebration of American independence on July 4, 1912, the Americans opened the Manila Hotel. They transformed the remote rural town of Baguio into a city, which in present it is known as the summer capital of the Philippines. In 1835, the first Trans-Pacific flight was launched. Americans reached Manila Harbor in just 59 hours aboard in China clippers. In 1937, the country's first private airport was established. It is the Manila International Air Terminal. It is where the country's first airline, the Philippine Airlines, took its first flight in 1941.
Milestone in Philippine tourism. In 1974, Department of Tourism hosted international conferences and sporting events such as the Miss Universe Beauty Pageant and the World Bank International Monetary Fund meeting. In 1989, Department of Tourism launched its first promotional campaign with the slogan Fiesta Island Philippines. In the 1990s, local civil aviation boosted tourism in the country when budget airlines entered the business, and more provincial airports were opened to international flights. In 2000, the celebration of a public holiday was moved to the nearest weekend. In 2010, tourism in the country faced three major crises. First was the criticism of the marketing campaign Pilipinas Kay Ganda. Secondly, all Philippine carriers were banned from flying over European airspace because they failed to meet the international safety standards. And lastly, was the hostage-taking incident at the Carino Grandstand when a police officer held a busload of tourists from Hong Kong hostage. Earliest tourism organization in the Philippines. In 1952, the country's first tourism association was organized, the Philippine Tourist and Travel Association, or BTTI. In 1956, the government created the Board of Travel and Tourist Industry, or BTTI. In 1973, the BTTI was recognized into the Ministry of Tourism, known as the Department of Tourism. The Department of Tourism Promotional Campaign. Year 2010, Year 2012 and 2017, Year 2015 and 2016, Year 2019, and Year 2021. More Fun Awaits campaign showcases the preparations the Department of Tourism has been carrying because of the pandemic. The campaign is focused on communicating exciting destinations to visit, starting with those that have been ready to welcome local tourists and have been minimum health and safety protocols in place. Therefore, history provides many important lessons that help explain the growth and significance of travel in world economies. In fact, the lessons to be learned from history can still be used to help plan for and serve the needs of travelers today and in the future. Travel continues to be influenced by factors such as time, money, mobility, and relative sense of safety.
It has been and continue to be our responsibility to fill the earth with light and warmth of hospitality.